Pin drop silence. My life was full of noise, laughter of childhood, commands and arguments of adulthood. I walked through an innocent passage of life into a chaos of injustice, which ended in a silent victory. My journey started in Sindh province of Pakistan. I had a happy childhood, playing with my friends, taking naps on a mango tree branch. Boys and girls all played together. We didn't see the gender differences. My freedom ended when I turned 12. I was told to stay home, no more meeting friends on the streets or farms. I was allowed to have female friends only. For my protection, a male servant had to escort me if I had to go outside the house. My uncle once told me that in our family, we treat women like a diamond, keep it in a safe place, and hide it from the public. I was a diamond, protected inside four walls of my father's house, which sometimes felt like a prison too. Finally, the day came and I got married. I was 20 years old and he was 35. I saw him from a keyhole a week before my wedding. He seemed a presentable, good looking guy. He was settled in America. Our families arranged the marriage, and I was happy that I was moving to America. First few years, we lived as a happy couple. He was dominating and controlling, but I was used to it. Men always controlled the women in my family. I thought it was normal. Things changed after my first child was born. We started having fights as I was voicing my opinions. Everyday discussions became an argument. He used his hands instead of his word to win fights. While watching a movie on a domestic abuse, he casually mentioned that he knows how to hit a person without leaving a visible mark on the body. I didn't believe him then, but I found out in many of our fights that it is possible. When he pulled my hair, pressed his hand on my face hard enough so that I could not breathe. These tricks didn't leave a mark on my body, but it bruised my soul. One morning, we had a fight while kids were in school. Same routine. He pulled my hair and pressed my face on the back of the sofa. I could not breathe. To get him away from me, I scratched him hard with my nails. Our neighbor heard screams and shouting and notified the police. An officer called on my home phone, asked me if I needed assistance. I told him, no, I'm fine. I didn't want him to go to jail again. As soon as I hung up the phone, he called the police and asked for assistance. When the officer came to our house, he showed them the scratches and told them to arrest me for a domestic violence. I was in shock. I was shaking, crying, but I didn't have any visible scratches or bruises on my body for show and tell. He was showing his wounds with teary eyes. With hissing sound, he was expressing his pain. He was playing a role of a victim. I couldn't decide what my role was. Was I a victim or an abuser? I was a victim, but I couldn't prove it. It was my words against his. I tried telling my side of the story, but he threatened the officers that if they didn't press charges against me, he will sue their department. I could feel the officers were confused. They were looking at a victim who had enough energy to prove his case, and an abuser who was crying and shaking. They took me in custody and asked to put my fists together for handcuffs. I remember I could not stand straight. My legs were shaking. I grabbed the officer's blue shirt. I wanted to hide my face in his chest and cry. I was hoping that this strange man would have mercy on me than my own husband. I was used to being surrounded by men who kept me protected like a diamond. Now, I was a pebble in the dirt. That is being kicked out of the house. I was nothing. It didn't matter whose daughter, granddaughter, or sister I was. I felt stripped of all my titles. As a criminal, the officer walked me to his car and shielded my head when I was getting into the back seat. From the corner of my eyes, I could see the neighbors watching. I vividly remember when they took my handcuffs off at the booking station. My arms went straight to my chest, covering it, as if I was naked. My eyes were too swollen for a mugshot, so the officer asked me to wait on the bench. My tears ran out, but I was still crying with a dull moaning sound. An Indian police officer saw me in shalwar kameez, sitting on a bench, feeling ashamed and rejected. He took me in his office, gave me water, and convinced me to call my sister. On the phone, my sister kept asking me if I was playing a joke on her. I didn't say yes or no, just gave her the address and told her to come for the bail. Click, click, flash, fingerprints, sign. I was booked. With other inmates, I walked quietly toward the prison cell with one apple and a small blanket in my hand. Someone asked why I was here. Domestic violence, I said quietly. She laughed and said, "Did you kill a roach?" We all laughed. After a few hours, my family bailed me out. I stayed with my sister for 3 months until he apologized to me and to my family. We had a couple of marriage counseling sessions with my uncle and aunt. He assured them that he would never make this mistake again. And if things got out of control, we will involve them to resolve our differences. My children were tired of living in someone else's house. My son, 10 at the time, was trying to assure me that Papa is really sorry. I promise you, Mom, I will never let him hurt you again. I was working at a good paying job, but I was not ready to divorce him. After a couple of months of peace, fights and arguments became a routine again. My son tried to shield me, but sometimes he would get pushed or hit. I noticed that after an argument, my husband would get energized, while I would sink into depression. I was living with the fear that one day he would kill me in self-defense. I was living with the fear that one day he would kill me, and self-defense would be the reason on the police report. Now, all I could do was to keep myself and my kids safe by not arguing with him, not telling him what my likes or dislikes. I quietly listened to his complaints and his disappointments without voicing my mind. During one summer, I was visiting my sister with my children. He called and told me that he's rewiring the house and asked me to stay with my sister over the weekend. When we came back, the house was dark. All the walls in the living room and dining room were open. Live wires and insulations were hanging from the wall and the ceiling. The air was full of dust. Children started crying and showing me what he had done to our house. I was standing in shock. My ears were ringing as a bomb had blasted in front of me. I didn't ask him why or what the plan was. All I could see, these four walls that hold our secrets of abuse and dysfunctional environment, were open. My son was trying to get me out of the shock by pointing at a broken wall shelf. He was shaking me and saying, "Look what he has done to your shelf." This was my shelf, which I was allowed to decorate on my own. He controlled everything, the placement of the furniture, things in the cabinet. Now the broken shelf and my thrift store findings were scattered on the floor. But I was quiet. The next day, he was trying to engage in a conversation with me, saying he needs to be careful with his project because he's not licensed. My ears were listening to his voice, but my eyes were looking at the destruction. My nose was smelling the dust from the open insulation. I couldn't feel my mouth to release my anger. I quietly listened to him and didn't say a word. Every night I slept with a horrifying thought that the house will burn down and we all will be killed. All I could think of was what my daughter, 13 at that time, said to me. Mom, you can stop this. A lot of people take divorce. I told her, no, I can't. I was so sure of my no at that time. The thought of living a life without a man was unknown, dangerous, and scary. But the life I was living with a man was also dangerous and scary. It was not about me anymore. It was about my children that came through me. They were my diamonds. I have to keep them safe. I have to cross this bridge on my own and trust the higher source to lead me in the right direction. One day after work, I parked my car in my driveway and called my sister. I told her that I was going to file for divorce. I didn't know how, but I have to get my kids out of this house. Soon, with the help of my coworkers, I made a checklist. Number one, get a mailbox at a post office. Two, find a divorce attorney. Three, open a separate bank account on my name. Four, find a weekly rate motel where I could stay with my children. Five, sell enough employee stocks that would cover the expenses. My divorce process took 4 years, but my attorney was able to get him out of the house in a month or two after the process started. Before moving back in the house, I got the wiring fixed and closed the walls. The house that once was the house that was once broken became a complete home. After work, I would come home, make tea, sit on the sofa with my legs resting on the ottoman, and watch the world news on TV in peace. That was something I had never experienced on my own. Now, the chaos and noise are outside. In my home, it's me and pin drop silence. Thank you.